Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to recreate the legendary race of the 1976 Nürburgring Grand Prix at the Nordschleife on the latest AMS2 virtual racing simulator, which recreates the feel of this classic period of motor racing history. The race in 1976, however, will probably be best remembered for Niki Lauda's horrific accident at the Nürburgring that nearly ended his life. His resilience and dedication to racing saw him make a remarkable comeback, returning 6 weeks later to ensure a thrilling climax to the season that ended with only 1 point separating Hunt in first and Lauda in second in the championship. However, there are 10 defining facts on the 1976 season that may have been forgotten. But first, if you want to see more content, please like and subscribe to keep up to date. The reigning champion, Niki Lauda, started the 1976 season as favourite. His nearest rival from 1975, Emerson Fittipaldi, made a patriotic switch from McLaren to the Brazilian-funded Copa car team. This left a hole at McLaren, which was filled by James Hunt. Tyrrell stole the limelight early on with their revolutionary six-wheeled P34 car. This car is famous for being the only six-wheeled Formula One racing car to race Grand Prix. It also successfully finished on the podium at the Nürburgring. Hunt quickly adapted to life at McLaren, and unfazed by Lauda's early dominance in the Ferrari, he continued to pick up valuable points on the podium finishes. But a trend started in 1972 came to a head early in 1976. The FIA finally recognised that the height of the airboxes was getting a little out of hand. It quickly wrote a new regulation that stated nothing should sit higher than the roll hoop, effectively bringing the era of airboxes and F1 to an end. While Hunt and Lauda were heading the races at the front, things were happening at Wolff Williams Racing. Before the start of the 1976 season, Canadian oil millionaire Walter Wolff bought 60% of Frank Williams racing cars, and the team became Wolff Williams Racing. However, Frank Williams was retained as team manager. The team inherited the Hesketh 308C car used during the final races of 1975, rebranding it as Wolff Williams FW05. At the season's end, Wolff decided to restructure the team, removing Frank from the manager's job. So Williams technically left the company he founded, taking engineer Patrick Head with him into a 70-30 partnership. A new start was made in an old carpet warehouse in Oxfordshire. William Grand Prix Engineering Limited was in business. A new legendary team and partnership was born for the following season in 1977. Penske, the poor boys of the paddock. Today, Roger Penske has a sprawling business empire, employing over 60,000 people, as well as running IndyCar, NASCAR. But in 1976, Penske was relatively poor relation on the Formula One grid. As a result, some performance-related privileges afforded to the teams like Ferrari and McLaren were hard to come by. But at the Austrian Grand Prix, the boys from Pennsylvania lucked out. If you were a contracted Goodyear team, you got first dibs when the tyres were made. Guys from Ferrari, McLaren, Lotus and Tyrrell got in first and took the best matches for the front and rear pairs. Depending on your status in the field, you ended up getting what was left. For once though, in Austria they put these tyres on John Watson's car and the car came alive. The basic handling was transformed. It became a racing car. Watson qualified second and finished first in the race. Incredible. The crazy thing with the German Grand Prix was the concerns about the safety of the track were largely ignored. The mountainous Nordschleife section of the Nürburgring was 14 miles, 27 kilometers long, and its size meant it was nearly impossible to manage it safely to the 1976 regulatory standards. The organiser was not willing or able to provide up to 5 times the marshals, medical services and firefighters needed at this circuit at the start on a damp, dry track. The cars pitted for dries on the first lap. On the second lap, Lauda lost control at high speed due to a suspected rear suspension failure and crashed into the barriers before bouncing back on the track, and the car caught fire. The car was then hit by Harold Ertel's Hesketh and Brett Lunger's Surtees. The two drivers immediately got out of the car, and soon Arturo Rosario stopped his Wolff Williams as well. The three pulled Lauda out of the burning car and the race was stopped. It took the one helicopter which was parked at the pits on one extreme of the circuit at the track an excruciating 5 to 6 minutes to get to the accident site, and Lauda was sent to hospital with serious burns and was fighting for his life. This had an impact on one driver. This was Chris Amon's last race in 1976, and to highlight the dangers, Amon, who started his F1 career in 1966, had been lucky to escape injury in the Belgian Grand Prix, where he lost a wheel. His suspension failed as he closed in on the podium finish in Sweden. The end came at the infamous 1976 German Grand Prix at Nürburgring. After Lauda's crash on lap 2, Amon refused to return to the grid for this restart and was promptly fired by the team. Amon announced his retirement and returned to New Zealand. The circuit still has the smallest reference at the exact place Niki Lauda's accident at the Nürburgring. The arrow appears at the bottom right. This arrow indicates the place where Lauda's Ferrari was left. With Hunt's crucial victory at this longest of race circuits, and after 49 years of Grand Prix racing, the 1976 German Grand Prix was the last Grand Prix at the old Nürburgring. One of the most iconic, historic and legendary circuits in Europe, the German Grand Prix moved further south to the Hockenheimring, and the Grand Prix did not return to Nürburgring until 1984 on the newly constructed 2.8 mile Grand Prix circuit. In this 1976 Nürburgring Nordschleife recreated, we're going to drive Jean-Pierre Jarier's Shadow. It wasn't a great race for Jean-Pierre, but we'll aim to experience a better finish as we race 3 laps of the Nordschleife. So looking at the qualifying results, Clay Regazzoni qualified in a 7:06.21. We've got Lauda in second. The Feet and Hunt. We've got us down in 20th. We're going to start in 20th and see if we can work our way through. Looking at the actual qualifying results from that period, we've got the full qualifying results on the right hand side. What we do is we'll actually we've only got 20 slots, so we're going to get rid of some of the cars that didn't finish, so we're going to block those out, and we are going to be in number 17, which is in 23rd place, Jean-Pierre Jarier's Shadow Ford. That qualified in a 7:30. So if we just concertina that up, we can see you've got James Hunt on pole with a 7:06.5 in the McLaren Ford in a 7:06. In our race, he's qualified in a 7:07. Niki Lauda in a 7:07.4 versus a 7:06.9. So that's really accurate. Same position and within a second of the actual qualifying. There we've got Patrick Depailler in third, who was driving the 6-wheeler. We've got the 4-wheeler in our race, which is, we've got him in 11th, the 7:15 versus 7:08. Clay Regazzoni in a 7:09 versus 7:06 is qualified on pole in the race that we're going to be participating in. Jack Lafitte 5th versus 3rd. Then we've got Carlos Pace 6th versus 6th. Jody Scheckter again, that's good, it's in 7th. The Tyrrell Ford, and that's within a second, so that's a 7:12.2 versus a 7:11.2. Then we've got Jocko Mass 8th versus 12th. We've got Reutemann in 9th, so that's another match. A 7:14.9 versus 7:14.5, so that's accurate. Then we've got Ronnie Peterson 10th versus 16th. Just 4 seconds shy in our race of his qualifying. Mario Andretti in 11th versus 5th. Vittorio Brambilla 12th versus 14 in our race, but again almost within a second, 7:17.7 versus 7:16.20. Alan Jones 13th versus 8th. Gunnar Nilsson 14th versus 17th, but pretty accurate on the timings. Tom Price 15th versus 13th in ours. Definitely got a bit of pace, which is might be good for us in the race. And then John Watson 16th versus 18th, but again pretty accurate timer, 7:23.5 versus 7:22.82. And then Emerson Fittipaldi 17th versus 10th. So Fittipaldi's looks like he's got a fast car in the race that we're going to be doing. Arturo Rosario in the Wolf Williams 18th versus 15th. Brett Lunger 19th versus 19th. So we've got some pretty accurate ones. And then Jean-Pierre Jarier, we've got him in 20th, which is if we take some of the non-qualifiers out, or the non-finishers I should say, which is where he could have qualified. That's going to match up with where we are. As we head towards the start, there's just one caveat with these cars. These cars are not from the 1976 season. We've got a mix of cars from the 77, 78 season here, but all with liveries for the 1976 season. We've tweaked the cars so the performance will be similar to 1976, and hopefully we'll see that in the race lap times. Let's see how we get on. Okay, 3 laps. Starting in last place, position 20. Pretty decent start there. Brett Lunger just to the left of us, John Watson straight ahead. Oh, just be careful here with cold tyres. There we go, ease ourselves around here. Brett's gone ahead. John Watson slipped behind there. Must be a little bit dirty on the outside of the track. Full damage model on, so this isn't going to go too well if we go wheel to wheel. Oh, we have managed to do that though. John Watson behind, managed to get past Lunger as well. Just got Ronnie Peterson there. Really slippery. The car's got so much pace. James Hunt up the road. Of course, one of the reasons I chose Jean-Pierre Jarier's car is because James Hunt always used quite colourful language to talk about JP.
Jarier will know he's there, of course. He will see him big in his mirrors, but he's not moving over. Now he's down to Beckett and he goes through. Alan Jones then has successfully left Jean-Pierre Jarier through. James.
Well, we've seen an example of the differences between some drivers. We've seen some drivers letting Alan Jones through, quite rightly behaving themselves, and you've seen the sort of pig ignorance that you'd expect from Jarier there going on.
Louder, and there is Jean-Pierre Jarier about to be lapped by the leading 4 cars. We've said in the past that Jean-Pierre Jarier is not always the easiest man in the field to pass. Is he going to be difficult again?
With Jarier there as well, as usual, getting in the way, and he's managed to hold them up for 2 corners now, and it really is completely out of order. A driver of his experience, and Arnu is getting through, he's getting alongside. Tambay is tracking at it the other side, but can't, and he'll be thanking Jarier probably with a knuckle sandwich after the race, I think. And there's Piquet pulling through on the inside, I think, has just nipped through inside, and Jarier really is completely out of order. I mean, he really shouldn't be allowed to drive in Grand Prix racing. He's got a mental age of 10 in the first place, and that was absolutely disgraceful for a driver of his experience. And I would think that the authorities have really got to look at driving like that and do something about it, because he should certainly have a short suspension for that, and for being himself, he should have a permanent suspension.
Still got John Watson behind us. This section here, oh, it's just very steep, that back in the 70s. It's not quite as harsh as that now. See if we can hold that. I think we might. Oh no, we haven't. Oh, he's fighting for it. Oh, I don't really want to go side by side around here. I don't know what they're going to do. Oh, might have actually got a bit of a run on Depalier now. Not the 6-wheel Tyrrell. I've got the 4-wheel today. So we've got 100% damage model on, one touch, and that's it. That's going to be game over for us. So we really want to have 3 clean laps. Yeah, looks like we've got past him. There we go. So now we've got to work out how to get past Arthur and Gunnar Nilsson if we can. I'll have a bit of a run up here. No, bit of a silly move that. Starting to pull away now. Just got to try and keep concentrating. Really don't want him to get ahead. It's like Gunnar Nilsson has actually broken free now. So tricky around here. Really can't overtake. I can see the group up ahead though, which is going to be quite useful if we can't get past. Oh no! Oh, Brambilla's gone past now, and if I'm not careful, Jarier is going to come past as well. It's this very fast 6 section through here before we get to the right up here as we go down a few gears and turn left. Brambilla ahead. He did something spectacular at the Austrian Grand Prix. The rain was terrible, and Brambilla, who was 37 years of age and had never won a Formula 1 race, was always strong in the wet. He overtook 5 cars on the first lap to be up to 3rd. He only had Hunt and Lauda ahead, who he caught and overtook. But the weather got even worse, and eventually the race was cut short to 29 laps instead of the scheduled 54. Brambilla won his first Grand Prix. He was actually so elated that he threw his hands in the air at the checkered flag, probably lost control of his march and rammed it into the wall. So I'm going to get passed by Depelier and Watson here if I'm not careful, so it's going to be quite tricky for the next 2 laps. Oh. Wheels fighting all over the place, trying to get it stopped. Wish we had. That's a bit difficult getting that stop there sometimes. Right, so that's going to be a pretty slow lap from us. That's going to be like a 1:30 maybe. Yep. P16 1:37.8, and it looks like 7:12 up ahead, probably from Clay Regazzoni. Right, that looks like the Wolf Williams has actually got a problem with the engine, so we might be able to nip past here. So yeah, on the first lap you could see Lauda hassling Clay Regazzoni. Then we've got Jacques Lafitte, got just behind him we've got Scheckter. Oh look, there we can see Alan Jones, Fittipaldi, behind him Reutemann and Tom Price. And this is our group here with Gunnar Nilsson, Maurizio Brambilla, Depelier, Watson and Peterson. And we might actually... Yeah, we've got that stopped. It looks like he braked a lot earlier there. Obviously trying to maybe conserve the engine, but he's now looks like he's holding everyone else up, so we can now try and get our heads down, see if we can catch Gunnar Nilsson. Probably one of the craziest races at the Nürburgring was 1968 when Jackie Stewart drove through absolutely torrential conditions to win the Grand Prix by a record 4 minutes 3 seconds. Funnily enough, it was a 1973 Grand Prix that Jackie Stewart won to give the closest finish at the Nordschleife, which was 1.6 seconds. So Jackie Stewart had the closest winning margin at the Nordschleife with 1.6 seconds, and also the longest winning margin at 4 minutes 3 seconds.
You're not seeing it in full focus there. The crowd are keeping you from seeing it, but you come out of that and you go through a left-hander, a right-hander, and then you go into the main straight.
So you had to get it right to get yourself launched down. Here is that right. Always a good place, especially when the cows were crossing. There's these last couple of corners that lead up to start-finish.
And here's the man giving the famous checkered flag. Both them out of it to win the Nürburgring. Francois coming alongside. What a great teammate he was, and sadly to be killed at the
signature uniform too. Bernard Caillet there with you.
Francois and Joe Ramirez on the left.
And that's it. His engine has expired. It looks like all the AI's getting a bit caught up there, but Depellier's through Brambilla, and it actually looks like Peter might have been caught out there, or maybe that was John Watson. I think we can see them just ahead. Car feels a bit better now. Oh, almost got that wrong, far too far to the left. Oh, and it looks like someone else has got a problem. So I'm not too sure who that is, but that could be good for us. So it's like Gunnar Nilsson has actually gone past Tom Price now. It's like Carl Pace is having a bit of battle with James Hunt. Jody Scheckter looks like he's gone past Jacques Lafitte there as well. And then we've got Andretti and Fittipaldi. So this looks like this is the Jody Scheckter group, possibly. Or whoever it is. I'm assuming that's not oil, but maybe water vapor. It's not as black as Maurizio. So, alright, we're going to get very close to get on the back of here. We could actually capitalise, which is going to take us right up the order, possibly to. In fact, it's not going to be fifth. It looks like that's. Might be the Fittipaldi group. Oh, I've gone wide there. Just try and get back in the dip. As soon as you come out of that dip and you transition along the top, you lose quite a lot of grip around there. So it's not really only one line around there normally. This could be good for us. This is where we could break in to the top 10, hopefully. Oh, it's a long train of cars that are struggling to get past. Should really pull over. But I think he's probably got his attack mode to defend at all costs. And that looks like it's possibly Alan Jones actually up there. Slight understeer. Oh god, I can't see anything now. Right, so yeah, it looks like that's Alan Jones just ahead. Then we've got Jochen Mass. Looks like Gunnar Nilsson's gone through. Oh, and as he slows down, that holds up Tom Price. That's us caught behind as well. Right, that's a real pain now, because that means we've got Jochen Mass right up ahead. Tom Price, looks like Reutemann got through. Gunnar Nilsson. Alan Jones is in the pits. That hasn't quite updated yet. Oh, but that's not a bad transition there. So we really need to try and get past Jochen Mass if we can. Oh, got Tom all over us behind. I'm not going to defend if he wants to come through, but I will try and avoid the slipstream if I can. Let's move across the road. That's it, he's going back into my slipstream now. Pulling out to overtake, he hasn't got enough pace. There we go, we've got the pace. Can we? Right, I guess be really careful on the brakes here. Otherwise I'm going to have a car, I'm going to have a McLaren straight in the back of me. Oh, almost I told you. Very easy to get that wrong. Is Tom going to get through as well? He's definitely trying. So it's a 7:07 at the front, 7:23 for us. Yeah, Tom hasn't quite been able to get through there. But now chase is on to see if we can catch Gunnar Nilsson. So it looks like Clay McInzone is still ahead of Nicky Lauda, his teammate in the Ferrari. Carlos Pace is still ahead of James Hunt, and it's like Jody Scheckter still battling with Jacques Lafitte. Gunnar Nilsson transitioned up through the field, same as us. He's in 10th now, and looks like Ronnie Peterson's also worked his way up. He's up to 14th now, and John Watson as well. So that's it. Alan Jones out. Brambilla is out as well. Car definitely feels good around the circuit, but one wrong move, wheel on the grass, slight late braking point, and it could all end in disaster. But yeah, looking around here at all the crowds on top of the bridge at the sides, tents on the side there, really real festival atmosphere in those days, in what was an incredibly dangerous circuit. So we are actually closing on Gunnar Nilsson, but I'm not sure if we're going to get them in time. I think we actually, yeah, it looks like we've got a chance here. Carlos Reutemann up there. Looks like he might be holding the Lotus up. Just see the cars on the left hand side there at the top going over the climb. So we've still got good pace, still catching the cars up ahead. I think it's going to be a fairly decent lap actually. Tyres are working nicely now. In those days, not everyone had the same batch of tyres, so you had a lot of differences. It was John Watson that got that win in Austria. Definitely not a car that was running at the front until they had a good set of tyres. All the top teams got first choice of the tyres. Oh, this could be interesting now. But we have only got less than half a lap. Let's see if we can stick it in here. Perfect. Can't see anyone in the mirrors, thankfully. Brett Lunger up to 15th. I mean, it's incredible when you think the cars used to do, I think they used to do 14 laps. So yeah, very arduous, a lot of concentration needed, and there were a lot of car failures in those days, and also a lot of accidents, certainly in practice and during the race itself. Here we go. Who's that? We've got Fittipaldi ahead of us as well, which is a possibility. We've got to get past, and we can't get past there. Dip there, you got to brake just after the dip. To try and break this stick here if we can. We are going to get the slipstream, but is Gunnar Nelson going to get the slipstream too? There's absolutely no way past. Obviously we've got the fan car just ahead there. That's the only one we've got. This is obviously a few years after this race, but it is in the original livery and it is slightly down specced. Don't think we're going to be able to do this. Well, I'll tell you what, 3 laps of the Nordschleife, that was absolutely superb. Just goes to show how tough it was. Ended up with a 708.3 versus a 707.7 to finish in 10th place. Oh, it looks like Jocko Mass has just spun just at the end. So, oh, it's just nice to slow down for a few moments. Let's see what happens. Have a look at that last lap replay. So yeah, last lap, oh, that's Niki Lauda really desperately trying to get past Clay Regazzoni. Oh, look further behind, and that's Jacques Lafitte. So Jacques Lafitte actually ended up blowing his engine in such a good race. And then, oh look, that's Fittipaldi there, being held up. So this is the last section of the circuit. We've got Lauda desperately trying to get past. He's been literally following Regazzoni the whole race. neck and neck. He's not going to get through there, is he? You've got James Hunt behind. Wheel to wheel. Definitely wouldn't expect to see wheels interlocking, but I tell you what, he's got the inside line. And that's it. Lauda, who had such a disastrous race, almost career-ending, finishes first, which seems appropriate, with James Hunt finishing just behind Carlos Pace. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. That's 3 laps. I certainly enjoyed driving that. Really, really intense. I'd thoroughly recommend downloading the 1971 version of the Nordschleife and setting this up as a race or even a full race on AMS2. Let's have a look at the results and see where everyone finished. So yeah, really, really good race that. It's brilliant 3 laps. Looking at the race results, we can actually see some of the non-finishers, so we'll just close that up. If we have a look at the fastest lap, Jody Scheckter got the fastest lap with a 7:10.8 on lap 13. Obviously we didn't do as many laps, it was 14 laps in the race in 1976. Niki Lauda in our race won. Obviously he didn't finish in the race in 1976 because of the accident, but it seems fitting that he should be in that position. In person that won, that went on to win the World Championship by 1 point, was James Hunt. He was 4th in ours in the McLaren Ford. Jody Scheckter, with that time of 1:10.8, incredibly enough did a 1:10.055 in our race, so finished 2nd in the Tyrrell Ford back in 76, and in ours finished 5th. Jochen Mass finished 7th, we've got him as 11th, so we'll just see if we've got any close ones. Yeah, Carlos Pace 4th versus 3rd. We had the obviously a different Brabham versus the one that he actually drove during the race. Gunnar Nilsson 5th, and he worked his way up to 9th in our race, so he started a little bit further behind, but definitely had some good pace. John Watson 6th, which is a very good result for him. Tom Price in 7th. Clay Beccazoni in 8th place. In our race he finished 2nd in the Ferrari. I'm not too sure how he felt about racing after what happened to his teammate. But Alan Jones finished 9th. He didn't finish our race. He had a problem with the engine. By pure coincidence, we've got Jean-Pierre Jarier, who actually finished 10th in that race, and we coincidentally finished 10th. Yeah, seems incredible to actually finish in the same position as the car that we drove in the simulation. But Andretti in 11th versus 6th. Fittipaldi finished at the back, but ahead of all the retirements in 12th, but in 7th in our race. And then actually we start to look at cars that had accidents. So you got Brambilla, he had an accident, had car problems in our race. Patrick Depailler, he had an accident, he had car problems in our race. He was really struggling, never really on the pace of his teammates. Jody Scheckter, Carlos Reutemann in the Brabham had a fuel system issue. He actually spun just after the finish in our race to finish 8th. And then Ronnie Peterson, 14th in our race in 1976 after having an accident. So, and then we've got Jacques Lafitte, who retired with a gearbox problem, and then Brett Lunger, who battled through, ended up finishing ahead of Patrick Depailler, but he had an accident in the first race back in 76. Niki later retained his crown in 1977 and in 1984, when he was the only driver in history to come back and become Formula One World Champion after retiring for 2 years. Ironically, when he won the World Championship in 1984, it was also the first year Formula One went back to the Nürburgring, but this time racing at the completely newly renovated modern GP circuit. But the most important merit of him was not the sport, but his fight and willpower. The courage that led him to survive the worst hours of his life and become a legend after that accident 45 years ago at the Nürburgring. He never gave up or backed down, quite the opposite. Thanks for watching. We'll see you at the next one.